sunsets and skies so blue. Mountains whisper stories of dreams so true. From oceans roaring wild to valleys deep, a heartbeat of a nation that will not sleep. Save South Africa, rise above the storm. Hands together strong, a new world is born. Beauty in our hearts, let it light the way. Evil cannot reign when we seize the day. The people sing louder than shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The soil holds our history, roots run so long. A melody of freedom, we're singing strong. They may curse the land with lies they weave, but we hold the truth in what we believe. Their crowns may crumble, their thrones may fall, for the power is the people's above it all. Save South Africa, rise above the storm. Hands together strong, a new world is born. Beauty in our hearts, let it light the way. Evil cannot reign when we seize the day. People sing louder than shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The people sing louder than shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The people sing louder than shadows can scream. Together we're stronger than the wicked scheme. The soil holds our history, roots run so long. A melody of freedom, we're singing strong. They may curse the land with lies they weave, but we hold the truth in what we believe. Their crowns may crumble, their thrones may fall, for the power is the people above it all. We know it all.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
The power is the people's above it all. Welcome back to the program, folks. Today, May 19th, 2025. You're watching the Indaba Africa channel. Chris Wyatt reports. Welcome back. Lovely to have you join me again today. Busy day as usual. It never ends. The virus, I'm trying to kick its butt, but it's still holding on there. Thank you for the crud. South Africa, a second illness I picked up in a month in South Africa, but hanging in there. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button. Welcome to all the Neanderthals, the canines, and right-wing podcasters. Glad to have you join us today. Boy, the disinformation campaign from the South African government and the media is out of control. The violation of the Poppy Act exposing a 52-year-old woman in South Africa to danger is a criminal act, and I am investigating that right now and will report that to authorities in South Africa, but I fear that it may in fact be the authorities who've been outing these people. So I don't have any proof of that yet, but I do have indications that may be the case. People inside the government are actually exposing personal information and doxing the people who are in the first batch of refugees. If I find that to be the case, you can rest assured that I will turn that information over to the government of the United States for its case with South Africa. Anyway, this behavior is reprehensible and it's unacceptable. These are dangerous people causing harm and wreaking havoc in the lives of private citizens who are protected by the U.S. Constitution now. I suggest that people who are doing this stop forthwith. Welcome, Charles. And also Little Miss Braveheart. The early broadcast, by the way, today, folks, is because I have a medical appointment. It took 4 months to schedule. Another reason why I had to be back for my appointment today, the election tomorrow, and then fortuitously Ramaphosa's meeting with Trump on Wednesday. So that's why I'm back. Del Visser, Vilma Rasmus, Antoinette, Lillian O'Donnell, Pierre Rousseau. I'm not going to get to all you folks. I'm just going to jump ahead here. There's Sedgefield. Jeremy, welcome to you. Monterey Sieperts is here. Hope Trump won't forget that Cyril broke both countries' Forex laws. Yes, he did do that. That's correct. All I want to know is what has been discussed. Well, nothing's been discussed between Ramaphosa and Trump because they haven't met. They meet Wednesday. So we'll see what they say. Welcome, Psycho Billy and Jelly, Garrett von Tunder, all the other folks. Hope all in this chat have applied for asylum. Nobody's applied for asylum, Garrett. Asylum is not the correct program. No one can apply for asylum unless they're legally in the United States. It's important to use correct terminology because the media will use your false statements to rubbish the situation. It is refugee status, and none of these people are legally refugees. They're being granted that status because of the peril that they're in, according to the Trump administration. Trevor Multipass says, in an awesome interview on Biz News. Thank you for that. Birdie, that 2 of the refugees are on the way to Washington for the Trump meeting on Wednesday. Well, that's news to me, Jelly. And wow, I wish a refugee had shared that story with me so I could break it if it's true. But that would be an incredible, brilliant political coup on the part of the Trump administration. Ha. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? I'll tell you what, if that's true, you know where I'm going to be Wednesday? Right here. I don't have a media pass, courtesy of the fraudulent Carolyn Levelant, who promised to make these passes available to non-traditional media, but only to her friends and perky C-cup bleach blondes with 24-inch waists. No one else gets them. Of course, the friends are One American News, Breitbart, and the likes of that. But the rest of us can go suck it through a straw, according to the Carolyn Levitts of the world. Ian Moore, welcome to you. Ian Moon, excuse me. And hey, Mike says, welcome. I'm ready for the polls tomorrow, but lots of work. I have to go set the polls up this evening at 5 p.m. Medical appointment at 1:20, and then setting the polls up at 5 p.m. So busy day on top of the interview I gave this morning with Dan Root and the video I prepared earlier, plus all the other stuff going on and overcoming this virus. By the way, folks, if you don't know what Jim Green is, you should check out Jim Green Shoes, based out of Peter Maritzburg. 40% of their market is here in the United States. These are the most amazing boots. I put them on right there in the factory, and they fit perfectly. This is an unsolicited, unpaid advert for Jim Green. Very happy with their boots, their African Ranger line, and of course, they gave me a little bit of kit, this shirt here. They don't sell these, but they did give me one. All right. Exactly. Yeah, let's use the correct terminology because it will be used against you. And that's what I've been all about all along this whole process. That's why I've been right. Did you hear about the headline? No, I didn't. What did DeBorga say? I don't read DeBorga. So, Mr. T, thanks for interviews. Well, more are coming, folks. More are coming. Well, Sean, they did give me a pair of boots, which cost $200. So there's already a royalty there. So I'll take that. They're also offering me more boots from their warehouse in Virginia. When I get a chance, we'll go down there and do that. All right, we have a short broadcast today, so let me get to the news. Starting right out of the gate. Solar surveillance. ESCOM wants to use satellites to spy on your solar systems. Boy, the oppressive big brother state of the ANC and the GNU just knows no bounds. The state-owned entity, ESCOM, wants to use satellites to spy on your solar connections. Of course, their excuse is we're going to spy on dodgy connections. But shouldn't that be the role of municipalities, not the electricity company? Interesting, to say the very least. But they want to spy on your connections. Why? Because they want to tax you for your solar connections, these scumbags. ESCOM will use satellite imagery to work out where unregistered installations are located. Why should you have to register your installation if you're off the grid? Screw them. They can take it on the arches, foot sec. They've been intensifying the registration drive in recent months. Some municipalities have already used satellite imagery in a similar way. Power utility ESCOM says it will be using satellites to identify unregistered solar installations as part of its registration drive. In recent years, they've intensified the registration drive for small-scale embedded generation in light of the country's solar installation boom. ESCOM's latest estimates show there's a so-called rooftop solar installed capacity of 6.1 gigawatts in South Africa, double what it was 2 years ago. So they want to profit from this. Solar owners who are supplied with electricity by the municipalities will need to check whether the municipality requires them to register their installation. And I say, screw ESCOM. Screw state-owned enterprises. Screw them. South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa coming to the United States, getting attention in the American media. The New York Times says his challenge to Trump on Afrikaner refugees. But South African media says he's not going to talk about refugees. South Africa has been the focus of Trump's criticism in his second term. Mr. Trump has made debunked claims that white farmers are being killed in genocide. That's not debunked, John Elegant. And dude, you want me to get you my refugee sources and you want to write that? On May 12th, Mr. Trump welcomed some of those farmers in the United States. They're not farmers. Some were farmers. Most weren't. He's also expelled South Africa's ambassador and cut off American aid. That part is true. South Africa will get his chance to directly rebut what it says is Mr. Trump's misinformation during his scheduled visit. Ramaphosa expect to try to convince Trump that the United States has a lot to gain from maintaining close ties with South Africa, the largest economy in Africa. Actually, that's factually incorrect, John Elegant. Nigeria has the largest economy in Africa. They eclipsed South Africa several years ago when they rebased their economy. Their economy is now 40 to 60% larger than South Africa's when you look at the actual value of the economy. South Africa also ran second. South African president also tried to reset his relationship with Elon Musk, who was born South African, as perhaps the leader's loudest critic. That may be true, given all his recent tweets. Southern officials have disputed Trump's assertion that Afrikaners, a white ethnic minority that created and led the apartheid regime, are being persecuted and killed him. What does that have to do with why they're being persecuted? The people who created the apartheid regime are few in number, and virtually none of the white people left alive in South Africa. Sorry, John, but that's not cool. Yep. South African police stated don't support the narrative of mass murder, but of course John does not admit or tell the facts that most attacks are not reported to the police because they don't respond. Many farm attacks are simply not reported. So we all know this to be the case. Most rapes in South Africa go unreported. Does that mean that nobody's being raped? That's dishonest. That's disingenuous. Yep. He plans to call on Trump to support an independent investigation of the genocide claims. An independent investigation. We've had an independent investigation by Katie Hobbs and by Lauren Southern and by AfriForum. Those are independent investigations. They've already proven the points. The government wants to deny it. So, I mean, if you're going to report on that, John, why don't you be objective and report that 3 sources have reported on this and accurately describe what's happening? He says since Mr. Trump's first term, he's embraced claims by some Afrikaners that are targeted mass killings in rural communities. That's simply not true. That's a lie. That's a lie. The Afrikaners have never made that claim. John, where are you getting this information from? They've never made that claim. They've never claimed there's mass killings. That's never been the claim. Give me a source that said that. AfriForum, Solidarity, didn't happen. Name a source. No one said there are mass killings. What people have said is that on the scale of genocide, the events that lead to a genocide, and we've seen multiple genocides in the 20th century, the events that lead to a genocide, stage 8 of 10 has already been achieved in South Africa. It's on the precipice of a genocide. Perhaps that's what Trump should say. In January, Mr. Ramaphosa signed into law a measure that allows the government to seize privately held property without providing compensation when it's in the public interest. Trump then issued an executive order in February offering refugee status. This month, top officials welcomed 59 Afrikaners refugees. John got that correct. That whole paragraph is correct. Well done, John, on that one. But dude, you got to stop drinking the Kool-Aid. Charles, I just said Lauren Southern and Katie Hopkins. The information's been there forever. A disruptive passenger could face a 100,000 Rand fine and fly South Air ban after emergency diversion. Well, are we talking about Knobs and Kesey? No. I'll bet you. Let's see who the passenger is. Did they give the name? Fly South Air says the individual who was allegedly disruptive and whose behavior led to emergency landing has been added to its no-fly list and may be liable for a fine of up to 100,000 Rand. What about Knobs and Kesey? She physically endangered and assaulted people on the flight. Why isn't she banned from Fly South Air? Why hasn't she been fined 100,000 Rand? Knobs and Kesey, the former SABC employee who's racially abusive towards colored flight attendants and assaulted people on the flight. Was she banned from flying? Not that we're aware of. Wasn't publicly made. Was she forced to pay 100,000 Rand fine? How about that? So I don't know who the person is that was disruptive on the flight. Oh, here it is. Oh, no, that's that person who recorded it. Passenger Kunda Marupa recorded the incident and shared a viral video describing it as an ordeal of chaotic and surreal. The dude was being disorderly on the flight and threatening passengers because he was triggered by not getting the right change for a bottle of water he bought. Wow. Wow. So, I just, you want to bet dollars of donuts what ethnicity that passenger is? Just guessing, because we know that these sort of things only apply to certain parts of the population in South Africa. We know that Knobs and Kesey got a free ride. She didn't get punished. She's really suffered no fate for her endangering the safety of 100-plus passengers on that Fly South Air flight from Durban to Cape Town. Well, the Daily Maverick contacted me today and asked me for access to the refugees who've been speaking to me so they can talk to them. And then they run this story, which makes me question why I should even give them any access to anybody. Echo chambers of misinformation, the Afrikaner Facebook groups chasing Trump's refugee offer. So they're actually highlighting a very important story of scamsters, fraudsters, and hucksters out there that are trying to defraud Afrikaners. But then they delve into the field of lying about Afrikaners. So that's an odd story. But the title is correct. This is a number of Facebook groups targeting Afrikaner refugees have exploded since the initial group departed for the United States. Many of the Facebook groups, popular to protect Afrikaner refugees in the U.S., are private and require users to fill in questionnaires and do background checks to prove their Afrikanerness. The Daily Maverick gained access to one such group. The groups are unsurprisingly heavily pro-Trump, anti-ANC, and riddled with misinformation, really, such as there are a number of WhatsApp groups in which hopeful refugees share their experiences and offer advice for applying to the U.S. Most of the content shared in these groups is largely targeted towards cementing the idea that Afrikaners are victims of racial discrimination and prejudice in South Africa, frequently making reference to the debunked white genocide. Well, I've yet to see anybody talk about white genocide, so obviously I'm not in these groups. Speaking to reporters after a cabinet meeting, Minister in the Presidency discredited Kumbunzu Nshiveni, a corruption accused, said South African Police Service statistics on farm-related crimes do not support allegations of violent crime or genocide targeting farmers generally or any race group. We don't really care what the South African police say because we know they hid crime statistics for 3 years back over a decade ago, simply refusing to report crime. And that is an uncredible, discredited its source. Members of the Facebook groups, however, still believe they're being singled out because they are. They are. The posts frequently link to videos by right-wing content creators such as former DA member of Parliament Ronald Hus, which is comical. Ronald is a lefty. He's not right-wing. He's a lefty. The videos often make reference or claim that Afrikaners and farmers are subjected to prejudice and discrimination by the government or black people in general, which is true. Hus found himself in a hotbed of controversy after a racist video resurfaced. Wasn't a racist video. That's your false assertion. And who wrote this article? This article is written by Ernst Kalitz. Ernst, you're wrong. You're wrong. It wasn't a racist video. That's your assessment. It wasn't a racist video. It was an academic video making a point. It wasn't racist. No. Ronald Hus didn't call for the oppression of anyone or the advantage or disadvantage to anyone based on the race. That's not what he did. It's not what he did. It's foul mouth and juvenile, but it wasn't racist. Yeah, and it's not been proven such in the court, and your statement is false, Ernst. It's wrong. Okay? Professor Wasserman from Stellenbosch University Center for Information Integrity in Africa explained how fake news tend to thrive in these types of environments. By being antagonistic towards mainstream media, these groups legitimize their information disinformation in what is called an echo chamber, filter bubbles online. That's exactly what the media is. Seriously. Seriously. Why are you devoting time to this? How about devoting time to the murder of Mark Liffman? How about devoting time to Nobs Mkhize and why she wasn't punished for the assaulting people on a flight and still can fly? How about devoting time to the money that was stuffed in couches and sofas in Palo Palo, or Digital Vibes with Dr. Zweli Mkhize and the fact he still draws a salary in Parliament? How about you focus on that? How about you ask the question why South Africa is working with Iran in nuclear, commercial, and military affairs, a rogue state? There's something you spend your time on instead of wasting your time on this investigative report. Wow. Wow. He added that Trump's Make America Great Again slogan is a way of signaling he's some sort of savior of American values. No, we are the savior of America's values. Donald Trump just glommed on us. So with this university professor from Stellenbosch, another university professor from Stellenbosch talking out his backside, just like Amanda Hus. He added that by awarding refugee status off country, Trump is seen as coming to save them from the reported victimhood, and that's why he's seen as a savior. Well, that's true. A lot of people see him that way. Dr. Nicola Davies Laubscher, a postdoctoral fellow at Stellenbosch Center for Research and Evaluation, research misinformation spread on Facebook by Afrikaners during COVID-19 pandemic. Oh, really? So why the focus on misinformation from Afrikaners? How about the focus on misinformation from the government of South Africa? The disinformation. Why don't you study that? Wow. The members of at least one group, numbering about 1,300 members, which Daily Maverick accessed, instructed its members as prospective Amerikaners to avoid contact with media at all costs. They seem to particularly have it in for News 24 after its critical report. No. They have it in for News 24 because it's disinformation. It's lies. And I've proven it time and again. And I've caught News 24 lying in a news report. I report the facts and direct people to the sources, and an hour later, the News 24 story is updated without any mention that the story has been edited. That's why, Ernst, that's why they have it out for News 24, because News 24 spreads misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. That's why. Wow. What I found interesting in my study was that the misinformation in the comments echoed the talking points and catchphrases commonly used by right-wing U.S. media such as Fox News. Fox News is not right-wing. People have no concept of reality here. Wow. He cautioned that all the coverage of Afrikaner claims can be seen to legitimize their allegations. The fact that there's so much attention to this and so much... Why do these fucking people deny what's going on? Well, we see it. I can see the bullet wounds in people's bodies. I can see the knife wounds and the stitching. I can show you the photographs of people ironed to death. I can show you the victims of this horrific violence directed against people because of their skin color and because the supposed wealth that they have. Why the collective denial? The jig is up, ANC. The jig is up, News 24, Daily Maverick. Why do you insist on your propaganda? Why? Why do you insist on lying to the world? Why do you talk to these people, these academics, who are part of the problem, inculcating youth with BS, lying about the history of South Africa? We saw this previously. Newsroom Africa slandered me. They lied about what I said, falsely claiming that I refuted something that Amanda Gos said on the broadcast. I never did. What I actually refuted was her claim that the U.S. was applying more sanctions to South Africa. When you say more, that means that there are some already in place. There are 0 sanctions against South Africa, and Amanda Gos misled the public when she was interviewed by Newsroom Africa. I refuted that, and a week later, their scummy newsroom reporter lied and said that I refuted her statement about land reform. That's factually untrue. These are untrustworthy sources. They lie, they lie, they lie. And this is disappointing from the Daily Maverick. Ernst, very disappointed in your behavior here. Initial group refugees who have traded their brides for barbecues do not fit the typical mold of refugee. What is a typical mold of refugee? I'm sorry, Ernst, what was the typical mold of a refugee who fled from Bosnia? Do you have bigotry and a stereotype of what a refugee is? If they're supposed to be poor, starving, emaciated Africans from Sudan or from Somalia? Is that your image of a refugee? What about the IT and the bankers and the agricultural workers and the shop owners from Bosnia-Herzegovina who fled to America with in-country refugee resettlement? The image of a refugee. What is that? What is that? This is not news. This is disguised as news. This is op-ed. 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 Opinion, not news. Disguised on Mail and Guardian's website as news. And these media outlets want me to put them in touch with refugees so they can rubbish them in the same fashion? Crime statistics do not support the group's validity as refugees. Crime has nothing to do with it, Ernst. It's not crime. Are you listening? Are you listening? Do I need to read the executive order from February 7th, which talks about discrimination in employment, in education, in land ownership? It talks about that. Crime isn't even mentioned. Why do the fake media in South Africa latch on to things that are not germane to the refugee program? Yes, being a victim of crime is a legitimate basis for making a point. And I don't give a flying flip what crime statistics say. It's the personal experience of these people. And how can you rubbish the experience of 59 people when you don't know their experiences? When you don't know their experiences. Unbelievable. Statistics giving a rate of homicides 100,000 persons reported by Sunday Times. That's not a reputable source. And why would you do statistics from Sunday Times? The only statistics you should get come from the South African government, not the Sunday Times. The Sunday Times are not a crime reporting outfit. They don't track crimes. They don't get crimes reported to them. The police do. Why are you reporting what the Sunday Times said? That is what we call circular reporting. That is the tail chasing the dog. The tail wagging the dog. You report the Sunday Times as your source for data on crimes? Give me a freaking break. Statistics indicate that rural and peri-urban areas, black Africans bear the brunt of rate of 52, while coloreds are at 45.3, Asians at 22, and whites at only 11.6. But that is not germane. That's dishonest. That is factually dishonest. We're not talking about whites. You are mentioning rural blacks, but you don't mention rural whites. You see how dishonest they are. I will read that to you again. Statistics giving the rate of homicides per 100,000 person as reported by the Sunday Times indicate that in rural and peri-urban rural areas, black Africans bear the brunt rate. The conversation is about attacks on farms. Take the number of white farmers and take the 4,000 murders of them and their families in the past 30 years. There's only 30,000 farmers left. That's not a rate of 11 per 100,000. That's a rate of 15%. There aren't 100,000 commercial farmers. The statistic is not even reliable. It doesn't even apply in this case. It's not a bunny, Lindy. That is Pikachu. Shameful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, John Steenhuisen, the Minister of Agriculture, is riding to the rescue. He's traveling to Washington, D.C. Yay! John will save the day. John will save the day. It's the DA to the rescue, ladies and gentlemen. The government of national unity. John is on his way. Yes. Cyril's boy, John Steenhuisen, took a commercial flight, apparently, to the States. Didn't get to fly on a plane with Cyril. What's that all about? President Cyril Ramaphosa and U.S. President Donald Trump will meet at the White House. Minister of Agriculture and DA leader John Steenhuisen has confirmed that he will be part of the delegation accompanying President Ramaphosa as he tries to mend the strategic relationship between South Africa and the U.S. John Steenhuisen has been discredited as a reliable source of information related to farmers and to the farming community, as well as Afrikaners in general, with his rubbishing and his personal attacks against the refugees. Yes, shame, shame, shame. Shame, shame, shame. Johnny Boy, part of the delegation. He's the token whitey in the delegation. There's Parks Tao, Kumbuzu and Chavini, Ronnie Lamola, Little Ronnie, and Johnny Steenhuisen. There you go, folks. Your token whitey. Gwede Mantashe is now the acting president of South Africa, and as he's famously said, if they won't give us the aid, we won't give them the minerals. Dude, we buy the minerals, but thank you for playing. You are dismissed. Gwede Mantashe, Minerals and Energy Resources Minister, has been designated acting president from May 18th to the 22nd. Well, he did say he was going to get rid of Aranya. So let's see what happens in the next 4 days. Will he get rid of Aranya? Well, let's see if Gwede makes his move against Aranya. So, why Ramaphosa left out Afrikaners in the Trump talks? Now, South African media, IOL, say he's not talking about Afrikaners, but the American media says he will. What's really going to happen here, folks? Professor Theo Neethling of the Department of Political Studies and Governance, University of Free State, said that including an Afrikaner leader, such as Freedom Front Plus leader Peter Groenewald, who's part of the government national unity, could create division within the delegation. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to rubbish reporters, but this article was dated today. When I loaded it, it was 35 minutes ago. Now it's an hour ago. This is an article from 1 hour ago. They talked on the 19th of May to Professor Theo Neethling, who said that including the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Peter Groenewald. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Groenewald has not been the leader of the Freedom Front Plus for over a month. It's Corné Mulder. Do you see why you can't trust the media? How could the journalists not have called and said, wait a second, he's not the leader of the party. Do you mean Corné Mulder? But no, it gets printed in the independent line. Iqbal Survey's propaganda outlet. It's a basic fact, like the leader of the Freedom Front Plus. I know who it is. I interviewed him in Parliament a month ago. How in the world does the IOL not know that Corné Mulder is leading the Freedom Front Plus? Do you see how untrustworthy they are? Reno girl, thank you for the for the super chat. And Customs of Life, thank you for your membership. Wow. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Shocking, is it not? Shocking, to say the very least. Sasol faces a make or break situation, ladies and gentlemen. Not looking good for the state-owned enterprise amid investor fatigue. Yeah, well, I can understand why they're fatigued. The company just doesn't make money like it should. With rampant cost overruns and delays, the project brought the company close to breaching its debt covenants, and in the end, the group had to embark on a huge asset sale to bring down its teetering debt pile. Among the disposals, 50% of Lake Charles chemicals project in the U.S. Wow. Back home, synthetic fuels produced from coal remains their core business. But they're in trouble. Sasol is in deep kimchi because the ANC has ruined it. Well, here's a poll. Let's see what the Times Live has to say about this poll. What should Ramaphosa prioritize during his meeting with Trump? Let's see what the questions are. Address concerns around land policies and misconceptions about South Africa. Focus on resetting and strengthening strategic partnership between the U.S. and South Africa. His visit to the U.S. is a waste of time. Trump knows what he's doing. Well, finally, we've got the correct answer here. Trump knows what he's doing. Let's see what the poll says. Well, focus on resetting relationship is at 45, and Trump knows what he's doing is 40%. Eric, I don't understand your point. You're saying that the churches in South Africa should support the Episcopal Church, the racist church that refuses to help Afrikaners? I don't think I agree with that. I think you misspoke. Russia has banned Amnesty International, and I have no problem with that. Amnesty International is a capricious organization that picks and chooses who the victims they support are. They've never helped the farmers in Zimbabwe. They lied about the events in Zimbabwe for the past 25 years. So Amnesty International, to me, has long ago made itself an irrelevant organization. So Putin has banned them. Prosecutor General said Monday it had banned human rights group Amnesty International as an undesirable organization. Founded in 1961, headquartered in London, Amnesty International campaigns for human rights around the world, including on behalf of those it designates prisoners of conscience. Really? I hear virtually nothing from Amnesty International for Americans falsely imprisoned in Iran and other places around the world, like China. They don't care about Americans because they're frauds. Truck driver accelerates into crowd, killing 2 people in Diepkloof hostel. Wow. Now we're using cars to murder people in South Africa. 2 people died following a protest at Diepkloof hostel in Gauteng when they complained about alleged ownership of parts of the hostel. Speaking to media, police spokesman Colonel Mavela Masondo indicated that the truck driver accelerated through a crowd in an attempt to escape the looting, injuring multiple people. Well, that's not a surprise, folks. Not a surprise at all. Cars are weapons. I've told you this for a long time. I've warned you about the dangers of them, and it's not a shocker to me that this has happened. Not a shocker at all. China, next on our radar screen. China's economy is slowing down in April as trade war blues hit retail sales, housing, investment. Wow, just in time to deal with the tariffs from Trump. China's economy showed signs of slowing in April as President Trump's trade war took a toll, with retail sales, property investment coming in weaker than economists had forecast. Good. China. Good. Commies paying the price. Pro-EU mayor tops the Polish presidential election as a runoff looms. Both candidates began preparing for the second round early today already. Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski and historian-turned-politician Karol Nawrocki are set to compete on the June 1st runoff of the Polish presidential election after the first round of voting was completed on Sunday. So Trzaskowski got 31% and Nawrocki got 29%. So they are not past 50%. So those 2 candidates will go to the polls and decide who becomes the next Polish president on June 1st, which is just days away. Wow, how do you run elections so quickly like that? Russia is beefing up its military bases on the border with Finland. Ooh, that's not looking good for Finland, who foolishly joined NATO recently. Tents, shelters, and fighter jets, and warehouse for military vehicles show increased Russian presence near one of NATO's newest members. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, I show you a photograph of the so-called FEMA tents for Afrikaner refugees located somewhere on the Russian border with Finland. Russian forces beefing up bases, military infrastructure near the Finnish border. So far, the move seemed to be early stage of a larger, longer-term expansion. NATO officials say there's nothing like the buildup along the Ukraine border before Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022. Russia has very few troops along its frontier with Finland. But Finland is one of NATO's newest members, has the longest border with Russia, 830 miles. The longest contiguous border with Russia for NATO. Romania's pro-European Union candidate shockingly wins an election in which he should have lost massively. A swing of 900,000 votes is a bit surprising and bears investigation. Nicosar Dan, the mayor of Bucharest, won Romania's presidential election. The election was closely watched throughout the European continent, with nationalist and pro-European candidates vying for the Romanian presidency. Official results from nearly all voting stations showed him garnering 54% of the vote. Wow. So, strange things in Romania. Donald Trump is set to push Vladimir Putin to end the bloodbath in Ukraine in a high-stakes phone call today. Ahead of the much-anticipated call, leaders from Britain, France, Germany, Italy said they spoke Sunday with Trump after Russia and Ukraine remained far apart in direct talks last week. Realize there's a bit of an impasse here, and I think the president's going to say to President Putin, look, are you serious? Are you real about this? Said J.D. Vance. The proposal of the United States has always been, look, there are a lot of economic benefits to thawing relations between Russia and the rest of the world, but you're not going to get those benefits if you keep killing a lot of innocent people. Will Russia cooperate? Don't hold your breath, ladies and gentlemen. Well, the Epic Times, not the New York Times. The Epic Times runs a story about Greenland's mineral wealth, chance for independence. Greenland's mineral wealth could pave the way for an independent future as mining companies and governments zero in on Greenland's mineral wealth. Hopes for independence rise, but so do the risk for a tiny little country. In a warehouse on the outskirts of the capital, Nuuk, walk through the nuts and bolts of mining exploration in the cold, sparsely populated country. Walls of tools and harnesses of small trailers flown to remote sites by helicopter, essential in a place where no roads go from town to town. There you go. President Trump cited Greenland's rare earths, estimated 1.5 million tons, as a significant reason to fold it into the United States. So, mining isn't new in Greenland. It has roots reaching back to the 1720s when a Lutheran pastor, Hans Egede, came to Greenland in search of the Vikings who vanished after settling there more than 1,000 years ago. Sean Newton, thank you for 140 Rand super chat. The Danish-Norwegian pioneer founded a new colony on the island. A few decades later, small-scale mining began. At one site, dating back to the 1850s, a cryolite mine proved vital in the 20th century. Well, there you go. Mineral wealth in Greenland. Will it help them survive independence? Canadians fear that Trump's tariffs will create a ghost town in Ontario. President Trump's tariffs on auto parts are already causing job losses in Windsor, the heart of the industry that makes components for vehicles bound for the United States. Wow. The concern is higher throughout the roughly 100 smaller auto parts plants in Windsor and the surrounding county that employ 9,000 workers. By comparison, about 5,400 people work for the 3 auto factories in Windsor. Well, mess with the bull and get the horn. Removing American products from your store was a foolish move, Canada, and you will cave before we cave. So get on board. Trump will call Putin and Zelensky, as I said today, in a bid to end the war, trying to stop this conflict from continuing. I'll be speaking by telephone to President Putin at 10 a.m., so that was an hour and a half ago. Subject's call will be stopping the bloodbath is killing an average of more than 5,000 Russian Ukrainian soldiers a week, and also trade. Donald Trump and Letitia James, the vile, repulsive Attorney General of New York, are battling it out. Justice Department investigates New York Attorney General as she leads Democratic challengers to the president's policies. New York's most bitter political feud has taken a high-stakes turn. President Trump and New York Attorney General Letitia James have sparred inside and out of courtroom for years. The outspoken outer borough native New Yorkers have clashed over policies, political ambitions, and her scrutiny of his real estate empire. He's called her a racist, and she is, and on Sunday, grossly incompetent, and she is. She has said he is an illegitimate president. She's wrong, and accused him of staggering fraud, which is a lie. Yep, so they are going to court. Trump is taking her to court. Los Angeles announces that they will have flying taxis at the No Car Olympics. Expecting to draw 15 million visitors, and you have to ride around in flying taxis. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, the moron who accelerated the fires and had no interest. She's too busy over in Ghana expressing her solidarity with Ghana rather than protecting the city of Los Angeles as it went up in flames. The callous, heartless behavior of Karen Bass, the moron of the highest order. She pledged the Olympics would be no-car Olympics. Yet again, another reason why she's a moron. The 28 games are projected to attract 15 million visitors, and I will not be one of them, and watched by billions of viewers. I might watch it, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Yes, there you have it. So Karen Bass, another idiot of the highest order. House Budget Committee advances Trump's agenda bill. Legislation passed 1716 through committee with 4 conservative critics voting present. Wow, look at that. 4 Republicans are betraying the nation. When a mammoth package first came before the House Budget Committee, 4 conservatives, Chip Roy, Josh Breachin, Ralph Norman, and Andrew Clyde, voted against advancing the package. But it got passed anyway. Federal officials begin an investigation into the Mexican masted ship that ran into the Brooklyn Bridge, which they claim they lost power. 2 crew members killed, 19 other injured. Apparently, they said 22 originally. So, federal officials confirmed on May 18th they're sending a team to investigate the Mexican tall ship crash at the Brooklyn Bridge on the 17th, which left at least 2 dead. The National Transportation Safety Board confirmed that the tall ship struck the Brooklyn Bridge in the East River, and updates will follow. Duh, we saw the video. The 140-year-old bridge and national landmark sustained no damage during the incident and is now open to the public. Well, good. I didn't expect it would. It's just wood. Snap the damn mast. Howard Lutnick, the charismatic or famous leader of Cantor Fitzgerald, whose brother was famously killed in the terror attacks on 9/11. He resurrected his company from the ashes, a critical company that's necessary to facilitate stock trades and bond trades. He is stepping away from Cantor Fitzgerald because he's the Commerce Secretary, and this is what he's doing to ensure that there's no conflict of interest, showing you that a patriot giving up his wealth. Howard Lutnick sheds ownership stakes in Cantor Fitzgerald, BGC, and Newmark. The Commerce Secretary reaches deals to sell or transfer his ownership interest in multiple affiliate companies under government ethics agreement. Wow. As part of the transfer, Cantor Fitzgerald's current executive leadership team will remain in place, while the firm's 26 North will become minority investors. Former Cantor Fitzgerald affiliates BGC Group also said money that agreed to buy back more than 16 million shares of its stock from Lutnick, its former chairman, for $151 million. Wow. So Patriot selling his business to serve the people. What an interesting concept. Meanwhile, this muckraking site called Futurism says Elon Musk is doing business with actual terrorists. Clear evidence these groups are profiting fundraising through X. Well, that's an asinine comment. That doesn't mean that Musk is doing business with him. Who's paying for a blue checkmark on X, formerly Twitter these days, according to a news report by big tech account to be a nonprofit? The answer is a bunch of terrorists. Really? So I'm a terrorist, according to these scumbags? Fuck off. Bunch of idiots. Meanwhile, Angel Reese broke into tears over the alleged racist incident. Well, it's racist because the WNBA, the League of Disgruntled Americans, the Black Supremacy, the Black Lesbian League, is up in arms because Caitlin Clark deigned to get an intentional foul against a sure 2-point conversion. Saw the foul. There was nothing malicious in it. It was an intentional foul, no doubt about it. And Angel Reese wins an Academy Award for falling down. The woman's twice the size of Caitlin Clark, who just smacked her wrist, and she fell to the ground and took umbrage. And apparently the crowd spewed racial epithets. This manufactured crisis of fake racism is getting really nauseating in America. Reese breaks down in tears after...
Let me tell you something. Tears. Everybody can have their opinion on Angel Reese, but y'all don't know her. Like, y'all don't know Angel Reese. I know Angel Reese. I know the real Angel Reese. And the person I see every day is a strong person. Is a caring...
You know Angel Reese because you've been a teammate for 1 year. We've watched her for 5 years in college in the WNBA. And you know her and we don't? Okay. Thank you for that.
Loving person, bro. The crown she wears is heavy, bro. She's the type of teammate that's going to make you believe in yourself. The leap that I took from my freshman to sophomore year, Angel gave me that confidence.
Oh, spare me. Spare me. Spare me. I mean, the woman got fouled. She wasn't punched. She wasn't assaulted. No one jumped on her. She got a hard foul. And this is how she reacts, crying? Spare me. Spare me. What a bunch of nonsense. Welcome to the 821 people currently here. That's the news for today, folks. Yeah, so let me just get what's with the bro, Pierre Rousseau? Stop it. Try to say people were making monkey sounds. It was actually piped in sound of a famous live streamer, crazy sounding laugh he makes. Exactly. Still don't feel this because everything is always racist with this particular group of people who behave in that fashion. State on fuel distribution now, so we're going to have to register our pedal bikes. Dumb as a bag of transgender bras. How many times did literally assaulted Caitlin? Exactly, Charles. That's what I said in my previous broadcast. Caitlin Clark was racially assaulted over and over with intentional malicious fouls last year, endangering her physical well-being. She was nearly injured several times by black lesbian thugs on the court last year. And she never complained about racism, but it was obviously racist. They have penis envy, even they're all women, because Caitlin Clark is more popular than anything in the WNBA. But she's not free of, scrutiny. She's spewed the stupid woke nonsense. Yeah. Hey, Nick. Report public state of own fuel. No, I haven't seen that. Anyway. Business report. No, I haven't seen that report. Okay. Sedgefield, welcome to Mexican steamship. Exactly. Must run. My turn took supper. Thanks, Chris. Great laugh again with you putting people in place. Okay. Fortunately, Trump admin has too much integrity. Otherwise, they'd find a crime to prosecute New York Attorney General and ruin her life. Yeah, they should. Do we even have a decent party worth voting for? Do any of them actually have our interest at heart? I'm not sure they do. Michael Robinson, thank you for your subscription. Lindy Donhauser's here. The Hotful Bikers here. Karen Nell, Tomahawk, Pierre Rousseau, Arctic, Pat Marie, and Frank Kelson, Safe Haven, BTC. I was in the police force for 23 years. That time I was on on 3 farm murder scenes, and let me tell you, it was serious that I struggled to sleep for 4 months. Yeah, I know. And they're going to sit there and deny it. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. You mined Greenland in a gold mine, says Steve, back in 2009. That's interesting. Catherine Fillette, I know some might not approve, but Joseph Tittle, modern-day Nostradamus, can give info about something. I've never heard of him. Why do you keep asking that question, Firefox? Stop asking the same questions. Very disrespectful and rude to keep spamming my chat with the same question over and over again. If you can't be patient and wait for me to finish with the news, then why are you here? Just pop in at the end and ask your question. U.S. forces tents are blowing up tents with air conditioning. Yeah, exactly. Steve, thank you for the 140 rand super chat. Yeah, the super chats have been slow today. That's fine. Anthony Michael Funsfield, thank you for everything you do. Information you share, at least we know is truth, not like Cockprot24. Yep. No, we don't want to keep Sarah or Johnny Boy. You can have them back. You can take Charlize Theron with them, too. Yep. Felicity Moritz, good morning or good evening from Joburg. And there is Sedgefield. Trump must persuade Ron Poe to arrest Malema. That's not going to happen. No bad taxi drivers. Sounds. We have bad taxi drivers. EU elections are a joke. I agree. Look at how bad South African road deaths are, and Australian police are complaining 32 road deaths. Yeah, exactly. They continue to protest, but they still vote the same hypocrites who are uneducated. Agreed. Beanie rides, bikes come. Yeah, I know. I drove into Sandown in the northern suburbs of Cape Town. Thank you for the super chat, Arctic of 40 rand. Whoops, Arctic doesn't like the bell. Sorry, Arctic, I forgot it was you. Yeah, I drove to the Sandown, the northern suburbs of Cape Town, and had to drive across all the damaged roadway from protests that have occurred since last year, destroying the road surface and endangering public safety. And these people are allowed to do that by the police, who hang out there often to make sure it doesn't get out of control, instead of just arresting these. Erica wants me to check my WhatsApp. Okay. Erica. All right, I'll check that. I don't know what it's going to do. All right. One of the reasons we're doing absolutely no investment opportunities to bring more capital in the economy. You're correct about that. Beanie rides bikes. And why would I put money in South Africa? I have to provide my own electricity, my own security, build my own infrastructure, replace my trucks because damage from the roadways. I have to have security for my trucks so they aren't robbed if they break down, and then pay a workforce that's highly inefficient, and pay and give part of my equity to a company based on their skin color. Why would I invest in South Africa? That's just dumb. Johan says, Johan and Veronica say hello. Hello, Barkhausens. How are you? Barkhuizen, excuse me. Did you see the interview with ANC spokesperson, the State of the Nation, where she said this? I saw a clip of it, and I intend to make a video, but folks, the clock is pretty full. The calendar is pretty full. My day goes like this. Since I've arrived, I'm still under the weather. I'm feeling quite crappy right now, but still producing content and still making my obligations. I have elections I have to cover tomorrow from 5 a.m. till 11:30 at night, so there'll be no broadcast tomorrow. That's why I had to do this broadcast, even though I have an appointment shortly after this. So I got this in a little bit early. So what's my opinion on Oregon? It's a beautiful state, but it's run by a bunch of leftists, and so anyway. Good God, UIF now wants proof that we paid the staff during the COVID period with bank statements. Some doesn't even work for us anymore. Yeah, they can go screw themselves, Anthony. This is an attempt to shake people down, because if you can't produce it, they're going to claim you never paid, and they're going to make you pay into the fund so they can steal the money. They're never going to pay it to the people that work there. That's what's going on. Thank you, Reactions Unleashed. Hi, says Tracy. You're so right about the farmer. My neighbor want to farm when he's done with school and want to farm in the U.S. People don't like the truth. No, they don't like the truth. That's why I get attacked. That's why I get death threats from leftist hate wankers, from South African politicians who threaten me, because people don't like the truth. You don't have to like my opinion or my analysis. You can disagree with it. But when I present facts, they're objective facts, and you deny it, well, I don't know what to tell you. Nearly 4,000 farmers and the farm family members have been tortured, murdered, executed in the last 30 years, including Brendan Horner and many, many others. Never mind the unspeakable rapes that have happened to prepubescent children and little girls and teens and mothers by these scumbags. And this is targeted crime. This is not random crime. These are lies. When we see closed-circuit television footage of these scumbags cutting the fence, killing the power, carrying cell phone jammers, wearing body armor, and carrying police service weapons to murder people on farms, you cannot tell me that this is just random revenge crime or targets of opportunity. This is clearly orchestrated syndicate work going on, and it's being done with the government ignoring it. At some point, you have to ask the question, who in the government is complicit in this crime? Why crime misinformation if you can easily debunk it if it's not true? I don't understand your question, Pete. Why crime is... Oh, you're talking about the government, yeah. Because they control the narrative, but they don't realize that alternative media is now the order of the day. And they try to censor alternative media. They were successful during COVID, using the tech companies in America to censor Americans and violate our First Amendment rights. And these are people that should be prosecuted by the Justice Department, including anyone that worked in the National Institutes for Health Communications Office, the CDC, the White House Communications Office, the Biden regime. All these people should be facing federal indictments for violation of the Constitution. These are crimes. These are high crimes. Censoring American speech by using Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and others as an agent of the government to silence speech that the government officials didn't like. It wasn't criminal speech. They just didn't like it. So they should all be suffering prosecution. If I were president instead of Trump, my Justice Department would have an entire division devoted to Biden regime criminal activity. That's what they would be. That's what they would be doing. That would be their sole focus. Prosecuting the James Comeys, prosecuting the Faucis, prosecuting all the other criminals in the Biden regime who undermine our right to free speech, our natural rights. That's what I would be doing. Might be a silly question, and I've read seeds can come in through the airport. Is that correct? Yes, seeds can come in through airports, through baggage, through boots. That's why the Kiwis are so anal about checking your boots. If you have hiking boots, because they know that seeds can get stuck in them. They're very anal about that. Trust me, I've been to New Zealand. They care more about that than anything else. Hope the truth gets slapped in the face of those going to visit Wednesday and told their statistics are invalid. Exactly. Our statistics are invalid. And they're very close friends, and one of her father was tortured, and then they murdered him, and they ate his food and stayed in the house for the whole weekend. Exactly, Tracy O'Neill. This is sickening. It's unbelievable how woke is trying to justify their negative attitude towards refugees. Yep. Going to central Pennsylvania. Well, I hear that someone said earlier in the chat that some of the refugees will be there. That would be brilliant. Yes, Elite, I said that from the very beginning. I told them to stay low, stay off social media, and once the first batch goes through, this hate will dry down. They'll focus on other things. Byron was invited to Mackenzie in the stadium, and Rob was there. Mackenzie says we must get rid of immigrants, but how can you? Because they're still going to kill. Adele Visser, I was invited by Rob Hersoff to join him and Gate Mackenzie at that event back in early April or mid-April when I visited Rob on Easter Sunday. Rob invited me to that event, but I had to get back to the States. I couldn't attend. Also, to be honest, I'm a little uncomfortable going to a political event like Ronaldo and Byron did. They look like fanboys for the PA. They're not, but that's the appearance. And as an independent journalist, I don't want that appearance. It's just as well that I couldn't make it because I would have been a bit uncomfortable at the event unless I just covered it solely as a journalist. But Ronaldo whipping up the crowd, that kind of looked like a fanboy thing. That's not a dig on Ronaldo. I'm just saying the appearance of it. So in some ways, I'm glad that I was unable to attend it. But yes, I was invited to that long ago. I was even asked if I'd be willing to speak there. That would have been interesting for me. It would have gotten a lot of subscribers, but I think it would have been inappropriate as an independent journalist. I'm not an activist in South Africa. It's not my place to do that. So anyway, my place is to tell the truth about what's going on in South Africa and around the world. And they give you 2 days to do it. They paid the money directly to staff's bank accounts. We took a free loan for our bank and paid it. There you go. Janine Scenes would be cheaper to live. Thank you, Trevor, for the 140 rand. Thank you for all support. Only a special few have been willing to stand in the gap for the white South African minority. Well, I've stood in the gap for all South Africans for 30 years. Okay. Some dumbass on the internet is claiming that all Afrikaner refugees will only get 3 months assistance. Well, they are a dumbass because the law says 36 months and recent history has been 8 months. So they're wrong on both accounts. Manchester, East. What is East America? You mean Manchester, New Hampshire? New Hampshire can be a bit expensive, but you can live less expensively there. Jason, Lisa Ann Moon, or Leslie Ann Moon, excuse me. I thought Rob Hersoff looked a bit awkward in Byron's video of the event. I didn't see the videos, Charles. I just know that I know about. Look, guys, I know about things that I can't disclose. Again, I knew about the Truth Report before it was ever reported because I was involved. Also knew about content creators, me being one of them, before it was ever involved, and I denied. I said I can't comment on it. I knew about Rob Hersoff mentioning to me to be a special envoy for minority affairs for South Africa. I knew about that at the time, and I also knew about this event, but I just can't share certain things because it's inappropriate. It's not my place to share it. So anyway, how was your stay in America, sir? My stay in America? I live in America. I've just gotten back to America, so I've been sick since I got back, thanks to the crud I picked up again in South Africa. Anyway, what is Yolanda asking? Anyway, let me cover a couple things very quickly about the refugee program, which I don't have time for, but I'm going to mention very quickly. Number one, it's not for farmers. It's not for white South Africans. The refugee program, as I predicted, is for Afrikaners suffering unjust racial discrimination and ethnic minorities. Therefore, coloreds and Indians, feel free to send your statement of interest. No one has applied unless you've gone online to the American Embassy from May 12th onwards. Anything you sent before that in email was simply an expression of interest for the pilot program, which is over now. 59 people have arrived in the States, not 49, 59. And they're not all white. There's a colored gentleman and mixed race colored kids of his that came on that flight. So there you have it. There's a little bit about the refugee program. That's enough of that. Okay. Mr. Little Jane, I just wanted to find out if you applied, how would you know they received it? You don't. It's not like the PRM email. There are no auto responses coming back to people at this point. You just have to, you sent it. That's it. And there's reasons why they're doing that. But I'm not going to disclose them because people are trying to undermine the system. Farm murders did not start in 1994, Lillian O'Donnell. They predate that. They picked up in 94. But just like Zimbabwe, farm murders in Rhodesia didn't start in 1965. They started before that. Yeah, 59 is the correct number, Peter. All right, please go watch my interview with Thea van Staden from yesterday, which had 41,000 people tune in when it was live, and now it's, I think, over 50,000 total. And you'll get a first-person response about how she was greeted, what's going on in the States. And then you can also watch my Jan and Mariki, not their real names, pseudonyms that I gave them. And you can watch that. You won't see their faces, but you will hear them talk about their experiences, where they're at in America. So also other refugees have contacted me and asking to give their stories. I will do that as quick as I can. Lots going on. Remember, folks, there'll be no broadcast tomorrow. I'll try to prepare some videos tonight for release tomorrow. There'll be no broadcast tomorrow because I'm judge of elections from 5 a.m. to 11:30 at night. So maybe when I come back, I might do a nighttime, night owls, but we'll see. Okay, Eyes of the Fox. I live in the U.S. I've learned a lot about what's been happening. I'm glad you have, and thank you for watching this. Also, folks, please go subscribe to my @Real Chris Wyatt, @Real Chris Wyatt, my other channel, the U.S. one, which I've neglected while I was in South Africa. That's my original channel that was stolen by YouTube fraudulently and then restored 2 years later, but is still shadow banned. So please subscribe for that one as well. I'll put content about the U.S. on there very soon. Okay, thank you, Irene, for watching both channels. Courtney Root, thanks for being here. Don't care about what color you are as long as you vote MAGA for the rest of your life. Any gratitude, says Light Rain. Alrighty, that's going to do it. I've got to run. I've got a neurologist appointment unrelated to this illness, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks, everybody. God bless. Have a good day. And then I've got to get ready for the election tomorrow. Cheers.